We are kicking things off with the UFC returning to Abu Dhabi for Fight Night in July. Promotion officials have officially announced that a UFC Fight Night event is locked in for July 25th at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi. Get ready because while the fight card is still under wraps, this event is set to follow the highly anticipated pay-per-view show in October, promising another massive summer spectacle in the desert. Bueno Silva, lightweight Brad Riddell, and Nathan Fletcher, and what this means for the landscape of the UFC. And finally, we look at the fallout after Nate Diaz's recent loss to Mike Perry and Conor McGregor's reaction. Former UFC champion Conor McGregor didn't hold back, tweeting his reaction to Diaz's stoppage loss, setting the stage for potential future matchups. If McGregor succeeds at UFC 329, the possibility of a trilogy bout with Diaz is now on the table. Stay with us for more action. The Ultimate Fighting Championship is set to return to Abu Dhabi for another summer installment with a Fight Night event scheduled for July 25 at the Etihad Arena. Promotion officials confirmed the date for the upcoming card, though no fights have been officially announced yet. This event is slated to precede a pay-per-view show in Abu Dhabi scheduled for October. The UFC maintains a consistent presence in Abu Dhabi during the summer season. Recent trips have featured high-profile matchups. A previous UFC on ABC9 event featured Reinier de Ridder defeating Robert Whittaker via split decision last July. In another notable bout, Petr Yan secured the bantamweight title by defeating Merab Dvalishvili, following a victory over Marcus McGee. Looking at recent UFC activity, the October event at UFC 321 saw Tom Aspinall's heavyweight title attempt against Cyril Gane-End in a no contest after an accidental eye poke in the first round. Additionally, Mackenzie Dern captured the vacant strawweight title by defeating Verna Jandiroba in the co-main event. Fans can anticipate further developments as the details for the July event are finalized. Conor McGregor is set to return to the octagon for a highly anticipated rematch against Max Holloway at UFC 329. The main event features the Notorious One facing Holloway for the second time, following their initial bout in the prelims of a 2013 Fight Night event where McGregor secured a unanimous decision victory. Both fighters have established themselves as legends in the MMA world. McGregor holds the distinction of being the first simultaneous double champion and is widely regarded as one of the most important fighters in UFC history, known for his iconic knockouts and trash talk. Max Holloway, nicknamed Blessed, is an icon in his own right, recognized as one of the best featherweights ever and the all-time leader in significant and total strikes. The rematch is generating immense anticipation. McGregor has reportedly resumed his trash-talking, with verbal jabs being thrown immediately following the announcement of UFC 329. Holloway recently shared a highlight clip on X showcasing moments from both their careers. In response, McGregor reportedly retorted, "I'm going to sun you, child," again. Looking back at their previous encounters, McGregor had a dominant performance, landing 53 strikes to Holloway's 23. Holloway was notable for avoiding a face-first landing during that span. With his impressive strike record, McGregor appears confident heading into the second confrontation, suggesting the verbal sparring will continue. Former UFC interim welterweight champion Colby Covington has been officially removed from the UFC roster, marking the end of his tenure with the promotion. According to UFC Roster Watch, Covington was one of 4 fighters taken off the roster. Following his removal from the UFC rankings in April, he has now been officially listed by the UFC as a retired fighter. Covington was a significant figure in the welterweight division, joining the UFC in 2014 and competing 17 times inside the octagon with a 12-5 overall record. His career highlights include defeating Rafael dos Anjos for the interim title in 2018 and securing notable wins over opponents like Robbie Lawler, Tyron Woodley, Jorge Masvidal, and Demian Maia. Despite his past success, Covington's recent activity has been limited. His last fight was a TKO loss to Joaquin Buckley in December 2024, and he has not secured a victory in over 4 years. His removal from the roster is officially attributed to retirement. There is speculation regarding his future plans, including potential moves to rival promotions such as MVP MMA, though he has a scheduled RAF wrestling match with Chris Weidman later this month. In addition to Covington, the UFC has also removed 3 other fighters. Mara Bueno Silva, a former UFC women's bantamweight title contender, was also taken off the roster. Bueno Silva's release follows a challenging stretch of performance, including losing her last 5 fights consecutively and maintaining a 0-5 record with 1 no contest in her last 6 bouts. Brad Riddell, a lightweight fighter with a 4-3 UFC record, was also removed after suffering 3 consecutive losses and a long layoff since his last appearance in November 2022. Finally, Nathan Fletcher was officially removed, a decision that was anticipated as he had already competed outside the UFC in Cage Warriors. The roster changes reflect a shift in the promotion's current competitive landscape. Former UFC champion Conor McGregor publicly expressed his intent to confront Nate Diaz following Diaz's recent defeat to Mike Perry. Diaz suffered significant damage in his fight at Bare Knuckle FC, losing to Perry after sustaining a cut on his face. This loss marks Diaz's first MMA bout since his UFC exit at UFC 279, and it followed his decision to pursue a fight under Most Valuable Promotions rather than returning to the UFC for a potential trilogy with McGregor. In response to the loss, McGregor tweeted, "I see why Nate Diaz didn't take the fight lol. Anyway, here's to when I get my hands on you, you lanky streak of piss. Trilogy and I gonna need my money." The recent bout sets up a potential future clash, as McGregor is scheduled to face Max Holloway at UFC 329, a victory which could position him for a trilogy fight against Diaz. Their previous encounters include a split between their first 2 fights, with Diaz securing a notable upset win at UFC 196 before McGregor secured a majority decision victory in their UFC 202 rematch. McGregor is currently seeking his first UFC win since defeating Donald Cerrone at UFC 246, and a successful performance against Holloway could lead to a call-out for a rubber match with Diaz. The prospect of a McGregor versus Diaz trilogy remains a significant storyline in the MMA world.